Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Life of a Business Manager podcast. This is the podcast where we break down the real world skills that every business manager needs to succeed. I'm your host, Sina Chan, and today we're diving into another topic that might feel very familiar with all of you listening out there, either working in operations or leadership, and that is decision fatigue and how we manage this issue daily. If you've ever ended your day feeling completely mentally drained or physically drained at this point, not because of one big decision you had to make that day, but because of hundreds of small decisions that you had to make, this episode is for you. Today, we're diving into something that doesn't get enough attention, in my opinion, and that is decision fatigue. What it is, why it hits business managers so hard, and any manager out there, and how you can manage it without burning out. So let's get into the episode. Alrighty, everyone, let's start with the foundation of this episode, which is segment one, and that is what exactly is decision fatigue? So, decision fatigue is exactly what it sounds like. It's that mental exhaustion that builds up after you've made way too many decisions over the course of the day. And they're not just big strategic decisions, but we're talking about all decisions. And the reality for business managers out there is we're making decisions nonstop from the moment that we start our day. And these decisions involve staffing adjustments, budget approvals, operational issues, emails, and unexpected fires. While some of these decisions are super high impact, most are small, quick, and constant, and creating a steady stream of mental energy from you that never really pauses. And that is decision fatigue. And the reason why it's so draining is because no matter how minor the decision is, it still takes up the mental energy in your brain. Those small, repeated choices add up quickly, slowly draining your focus and capacity without you even realizing it at the moment. And what it really feels like is by the middle or the end of the day, you start to feel it affect you. I get it all the time, honestly. And lately, I've been getting it more than before. And I don't know if that's because I've been at the organization I've been working at for some time, but my focus will drop and simple decisions feel so much harder towards the end of the day. And you may find yourself procrastinating or overthinking like me, but eventually your brain hits a limit and it signals that you're done. You're pretty much done for the day and you're leaving due to mental exhaustion. So that is decision fatigue. So just keep that in mind when you're working as a business manager or any type of role that you're in. That's a definition of it. And we're going to talk about the effects and how you can manage it. Okay, everyone, let's move on to segment two, as I mentioned, which is why business managers feel decision fatigue the most. Now, let's talk about why decision fatigue hits business managers harder than most roles, because this part is real. I've dealt with it. So, the truth is, we sit at the center of every single decision. We're not on the sidelines, we're in the middle of every situation, constantly navigating between leadership needs, staff, strategy, execution, expectations, and the reality of the role. And the reason why it hits business managers harder is because business managers feel decision fatigue more intensely because they operate at the center of every single organization. They're trying to bridge the gap between leadership and staff, as well as dealing with the constant flow of decisions. And because of that, we are the go to person. For example, everyone comes to us for answers, everyone's waiting on our decision, and almost everything feels urgent, like it needs to be solved right now. You're not just managing your own workload daily, you're carrying the weight of multiple perspectives all at once. You're balancing what leadership wants, what your team needs, and what actually reality is for you at the time. And here's where it gets even heavier for you. You're not just making decisions for yourself, you're making decisions that directly impact your team, your department, your budget, and ultimately your outcomes. And one decision can influence the timeline, the morale, the performance, and even the long term strategy of the organization. So, yes, there are a lot of decisions, but it's not just about the number of decisions, it's about the responsibility behind every decision because every choice carries weight. Every call has consequences behind it, and that constant pressure to get it right, that's what really adds up over time. And that is the reason why decision fatigue is harder for business managers out there. Alrighty, everyone, let's move on to segment 3, which is what decision fatigue actually looks like in real life. And let's just make this real because decision fatigue doesn't always show up in like obvious ways. You don't just sit there and you realize you have decision fatigue. It's not like you're just going to sit there and think, wow, I'm exhausted from making decisions today. That doesn't make any sense. And that is not realistic. It's much more subtle than that. And honestly, it's a lot more disruptive mentally. And sometimes decision fatigue shows up as procrastination. So you delay making even the easiest choices, not because they're difficult, but because your brain just doesn't want to process one more thing. And how it really shows up is decision fatigue shows up in subtle everyday behaviors that disrupt your normal workflow and focus. So, some of the behavioral signs that I would recommend checking in with yourself is it can look like procrastinating simple decisions, feeling overwhelmed by small choices, and saying yes to everything just to move on, which is not smart. You have to make smart strategic decisions as a business manager, or avoiding decisions altogether by delaying responses. Now, I'm guilty of all of these behaviorals, so I definitely recommend checking in with yourself, but as long as you recognize that you're in these types of situations, then you're able to kind of manage through the day. An emotionally and mental impact is you may become more irritable, impatient, or you start second guessing yourself on every decision. And even some of the routine tasks, like replying to an email, can suddenly feel unusually difficult for you. Those are clear signs that your mental capacity is completely drained and you have decision fatigue, at least by the time that you figure out all of these behavioral signs. Let's move on to segment 4, which is the doing more with less factor. Now, let's layer in a reality we talk about all the time on this podcast, and that is doing more with less. And I do have an episode on this, so go take a listen. It means as business managers, we're dealing with fewer resources, leaner teams, higher expectations, and faster deadlines. And none of those pressures are slowing down, they're just accelerating. So, what does it actually mean for you as a business manager? The reality of doing more with less, business managers are operating in an environment with fewer resources, leaner teams, higher expectations, and faster timelines, creating constant pressure to perform at a high level. And the reason why this is part of decision fatigue is because it means more decisions are landing on your plate. It means less support for you to help carry the load. And it also means you have less time and space to actually think things through. You're being asked to move faster, respond quicker, and still get it right. And here's where it all connects because now it's not how many decisions you're making, it's about the condition you're making them under. You're making more decisions in less time with less information and with higher impact attached to every single outcome. And that combination right there, that pressure, that pace, that constant demand, that's what creates the decision fatigue. And it's not even just decision fatigue at this point, it's a burnout. Because when you're constantly operating in that state, no real opportunity for you to reset, recharge, or step back. You're just moving from one decision to the next, trying to keep up. And over time, that catches up with you. And that's the reason why the doing more with less factor is part of the reason why you have decision fatigue. Okay, everyone, now we're in segment 5, which is probably the most important besides defining what decision fatigue is. It's how to manage decision fatigues, practical strategies that you can use in order for you to manage this daily. Now, let's just talk about some solutions because this is part of what actually really helps. So, number one is to reduce unnecessary decisions for yourself. Not every decision needs your brain power. You can always ask yourself, can this be standardized? Can this be automated? Or can someone else handle this? Because you need to create a system for repeat decisions so you're not starting from scratch every time you have to make that decision. The second practical strategy is to delegate with trust with your team. So you don't need to be the decision maker for everything. So empower your team with clear guidelines, decision boundaries, and confidence to act for you. Because if everything comes back to you, you'll burn out really fast. You don't need to micromanage. You can actually just let your team help you delegate all those decisions to them. So then you're not burning yourself out and getting decision fatigue by the end of the day. The third practical strategy is to batch your decisions. So instead of making decisions all day long, try grouping them. For example, if you need to make approvals, do approvals at a certain time. If you need to do emails, emails in batches so you get them out of the way, or do meetings back to back. This reduces the mental switching that drains your energy if you're having to go from making a decision about budgets to meeting with the staff member that's acting up. You just don't need to go back and forth in regards to those decisions because they're different. The fourth practical strategy is prioritize high impact decisions. So, not all decisions are equal. So, protect your energy for strategic decisions, people related decisions, or financial decisions. Those are probably your top three where you need to save your brain energy in order to make smart decisions for all of those three topics. And don't overthink the small decisions that you need to make throughout the day. The fifth practical strategy is to create default options. And one of the easiest hacks that I know is just to always have a default answer. For example, have your standard responses, have your go to processes, and have preset workflows in order for you to have those decisions made for you. It requires less thinking and more energy saved. The last practical strategy is to take mental breaks. And I mean that seriously because honestly, throughout the day, you will get burnout if you're making all these decisions from all different types of requests to support all of your operators. This one is so underrated. Take your short breaks to help reset your brain. Do a quick walk, step away from your screen, or 5 minutes of quiet time. That 5 minutes is probably your longest 5 minutes that you can manage. And you will notice that when you take these mental breaks, you make smarter decisions when you come back. You're not being unproductive, you're just recharging your decision making ability. I've done this. I highly recommend mental breaks in general throughout the day because it does help you make smarter decisions and think clearer. So, those are the practical strategies in order for you to manage decision fatigues that I would recommend. Obviously, do your research, do what works for you. These are the ones that obviously work for me, and I highly recommend them. Okay, everyone, let's close out the episode with the last segment 6, which is changing the mindset. I always talk about the mindset shift, so it's just something I believe in. Now, let's close this out because this is the part that really changes how you show up every day as a business manager. I want you to hear this clearly. You're not supposed to make every decision perfectly. No one's perfect. We will make mistakes. I do it all the time, unfortunately. I just own up to it and I just move on with my life. So that expectation, it's unrealistic. And honestly, it's one of the fastest way to drain your confidence and your energy. Just be okay with the fact that you're not going to make the right decision for every single decision that you have to make daily. Be kind to yourself. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. You're not always supposed to carry everything on your own. And just because you can handle it, it doesn't mean you should. Being the go to person, which I understand, I get that all the time, doesn't mean that you're the only person. And let's just be real, you are definitely not meant to operate at 100% capacity mentally all day long. That's just not sustainable. You're human. You're not a machine. I'm sure there's machines coming. We're not going to go there. But your energy is a limited resources and you need to manage it right and not ignore it. So here's the shift. Being a great business manager isn't about making more decisions faster or trying to be everywhere at once. It's about being intentional. It's about protecting your energy. And it's also about making better decisions with the capacity that you have. Because when you manage your energy, you improve your clarity. And when you improve your clarity, you make stronger decisions. And that's what actually drives result and not just by doing more, but thinking better. So here's what I want you to take as far as the mindset shift is you are not supposed to make every decision perfectly. You are not supposed to carry everything alone. And you are definitely not supposed to operate at 100% capacity, as I mentioned. So if you can take those three things, I think you will do great as far as managing your mindset and working as a business manager or any manager or any role that you're working in. Okay, everyone, we're going to close out the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, feeling mentally drained doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you. It's often a result of decision fatigue. And instead of pushing through, the key is to manage your energy intentionally by recognizing your limits. When you protect your mental energy, you improve clarity, you make smarter decisions, and it helps you on how you show up for your team, your organization, and yourself. Again, thank you so much for tuning into Life of a Business Manager podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, share it with another business manager out there or anyone out there that you feel is feeling this way of decision fatigue. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you have any questions about the role, suggestions for future topics, or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. You can find my email in the show notes below. As always, thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye everyone. Hi, everyone. Just a reminder, the content provided in our podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with appropriate professionals before making any business decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. We do not endorse any products or services mentioned unless stated in any of our episodes. Thank you so much for listening.